Therefore, since they're all working, I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Monteagle City Council meeting of January 29th, 2024. It's 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. We will start with a prayer by our chaplain, Will Planzan.
If y'all would pray with me, please. O Lord our God, we praise you for your creation and the creation of all that is. In these troubled times, it is you that we turn to because you are the Lord of all. We humbly ask that you bring peace and justice to all the people of the earth, especially those in Ukraine, the Middle East, the Far East, and anywhere in the world where there is unrest, war, or injustice. May your light shine among those who do not know you, so that your kingdom may come here on earth. We lift up to you the mayor and the city council of the town of Monteagle, that they may continue to be guided by your work, by you. Watch over all who work to improve our town, especially our first responders. Keep them safe as they keep us safe. We ask all of this in the name of your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please.
Lauren. Here. Jessica. Here. Diane.
Here.
Nate.
Here.
Mayor.
Here. Okay, you have the minutes that were included in your packet. I'll accept the motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
I'll make such a motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion or corrections on the minutes as submitted? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Thank you. Citizens' comments. We're towards the end of the meeting? Okay.
I think we've got minutes from a public hearing to approve.
You can do them all at one time.
Oh, did we just do that?
Okay, well then, for clarity, Dan and Jessica, we've approved the public hearing minutes as well. Is that a problem in your motion?
No.
Okay. Thank you. So we've approved the minutes for both the public hearing and the city meeting.
Nothing like spam.
I just want to talk for a minute, and I have a couple of comments to make throughout the meeting, but it's important that we hear this because we've been dealing with a major winter event, a major weather event, whatever we'd like to call it, but it's been a challenge that week of the snowstorm. Oh, how's that, better? Oh, I'm sorry, okay, thank you. As you know, the storm was unprecedented. We had snow, we had ice, we had freezing temperatures, then we had some precipitation on top of all of that, and it just kept coming and coming. The biggest issue we had, and I took action on a couple of matters just for public safety. If it's not absolutely urgent that you be out there, please stay home. We had cars in ditches, we had cars that were going sideways, we had an 18-wheeler that blocked Interstate 24, all the lanes going to Nashville. We had a vehicle that could not stop and went under a trailer of an 18-wheeler. There was just one accident, one finding a ditch, just more and more incidents that we need to keep clear. And we need to keep clear for emergency vehicles as well as the safety of the citizens. So In the future, I ask that you plan ahead. Maybe you need to get some medication, some food, fill your tank up with gas, conserve water and electricity, do all the stuff that you hear about, but prepare for any of these onslaughts, because I'm not sure we're done with winter yet. So we need to be aware of that, and I just want to pass that on from the very beginning. Calendar events, I don't have anything, unless any of the aldermen have anything coming up. Our next meeting is February 26th. The Planning Commission meeting is February 6th, and that also is at 5 o'clock here. So, we're happy to have Steve Lamb here, who'll be giving his report and comments with the fire department. I'm changing the agenda a little bit because of his travel schedule and another commitment at another meeting. So, Steve, and is Travis here?
Chief.
Steve, if you could start us off with your report, and we understand your time constraints. Travis?
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening to everybody. Excuse me. As the Mayor mentioned, my name is Steve Lamb. I'm the Emergency Management Agency Director for Marion County, which includes Monteagle. I'm here to talk just briefly about our hazard mitigation plan. Marion County and the municipalities of Marion County have a what we call a multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan. It's been approved by FEMA. We first incorporated in 2014. It's required to be updated every 5 years, and so we updated it in 19, and now we're around for 2024. We're starting our update. And what we do with the hazard mitigation plan, excuse me, is we try to identify the hazards in the communities. We come together, the cities, the counties, and the public's invited to all these meetings. We come together and talk about the various hazards we have in each community, and then we adopt a plan that says it's a blueprint. It doesn't require you to do anything, but it's a blueprint going forward for the cities and for the county to work toward to make our county safer for our citizens. By being a member of an approved hazard mitigation plan, there are revenue streams open up through the hazard mitigation grant program through the state of Tennessee that the entities can apply. In fact, I'm meeting with the road commissioner down on Orange Mountain Road this coming week. You know, they've had a lot of problems on that road, and we're looking at a hazard mitigation grant to fix that slide area down there. And we qualify because that was identified in our plan. It was a part of our plan. The reason I'm here tonight to talk to you about it is in the 2 rounds of hazard mitigation planning I've only ever had one person from the public show up for a meeting, even though we do everything we can to invite them. We put notices out in libraries, different places across the county. So what I'm trying to do a little differently this year is asking for a little help from the citizens up front to help us start our planning process. And what my staff has done is we've developed a very, very short survey that we're asking the citizens to complete. We asked 4 questions. I'm going to put my glasses on. We ask basically 4 questions. We want to know if you live in a town in the county. And if you don't live in a town, do you live in a community? In other words, we have up here, we have Jackson Point, Stage Off, there's Jump Off community, and of course the cities. And we want you to tell us where you're from on this survey. Then we ask the question, is it a full-time or part-time residence? And the only reason for that is there are a lot of vacation homes out there. So it was just something that was added, the team added to the survey. And then we list basically 12 FEMA hazards that they have listed. I'll just read them briefly. Drought, earthquake, extreme temperatures, that's in the summer and the winter, flooding, landslides, severe storms, which is rain, ice, and snow like we had this past week, tornado straight line winds, wildfires, communicable diseases, dam failure, hazardous material release, and infrastructure. And the infrastructure means water and electrical and internet supply. And we ask you to pick 4 of those that you think are the most important for your area. And then the last question we have is are you part of our county notification system? Have you signed up for that? We're trying to see how good a job we did with that in the past. Or do you rely on public media apps or Facebook, or you don't have any way to receive emergency alerts? We prepared the survey 2 different ways. We have a paper form, but to make it convenient, we have a form that we made up that's got a QR code on it. And all you have to do is scan that QR code. It takes you straight to a survey. It was set up by the Southeast Development District for us. Again, we don't want your name. The only other thing we ask on the QR survey is if you want to put your email address in there to be notified about the public meetings. We'll start having public meetings in March. As the mayor knows, we tried to start this back in September this past year. We didn't get off the ground right. So we're going back, but it's important. And again, I'm trying to be brief. I talk too much sometimes, but when I was on top of the mountain at Jackson Point, during that wildfire, I was on top of the mountain at Whitwell Mountain on that large fire. I got time to talk to a lot of the local residents, and what we've learned is your perception is not exactly always what our perception is. So we're just asking for your help in this survey. It takes 2 minutes to do it. As I've been going to all the city meetings, this is my last meeting. I got to go to the county commission tonight as soon as I finish this meeting. So far, we've had 519 responses to our survey as of this morning, which we think is excellent. Now, we're going a little further. The Interact clubs for the high schools in Marion County will be setting up at Tractor Supply, Foodland, Walmart, Ingalls. They've already done the Save-A-Lot in Whitwell. And then myself and a couple of my people will actually be up here at the Piggly Wiggly at the end of the month, or sometime into February. We'll be up here. They allowed us to set a table up there so we can try to hand these surveys out. So we're trying to get the word out. You can put it on your Facebook page, on the city page. You can share it with your neighbors. Help us to help you. So unless we have any questions.
Well, thank you. Just let me make a comment. Steve Lamb has been working closely during this winter event with our police and fire departments, and he's been a tremendous resource. As you know, EMA is emergency management, which feeds into TEMA, which is the state agency, which feeds into FEMA, which is the federal agency. So what we can establish on ground level here would be a help as we apply for aid of any kind. As you know, an area has to be declared a disaster area before you get federal relief, et cetera, et cetera. So this is part of that ongoing process, and Steve has been very instrumental in helping the town in many ways. So thank you for that, and I'll be in touch with you to put that survey on our website and Facebook.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm with the newspaper, could I get the QR code to put in the paper?
Well, I'm gonna give her, I've got sheets to hand, leave for everybody.
Oh,
Yes.
wonderful.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let you get away. But, yeah, and you can post one at City Hall here. The more information we can get about the county, the better planning we can do. Of course, this storm was a 30-year event. It's been 30 years since we had this. And we forget stuff, so it's good to get this information from people. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
And we'll set up communication if there's any information we need in addition from Steve.
Well, my name and my phone number and my email address is on each of these forms. And what I welcome people to do, I always tell people, I work for the mayor as emergency management director, but I've got 28-something thousand customers in my county. And my phone is always on, so I'm not ashamed to share it. You can contact me, anytime if you've got a question about something you think that I might be able to answer. So can I just...
Please. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes. Any way you want to do it is fine.
Well, I don't want to take too much of your time. That's what I'm trying to do.
That's fine. I'm going to call the next one. We're going to keep
Okay.
moving and change the agenda. It seems every 2 seconds. Dr. Davies?
Hey, Steve, if you'll bring me one, I'll take a picture of it and I'll put it up there, and we'll see if folks on
Okay.
Facebook can make it work. I don't know whether
You
they'll
have
be able
the
to or
business
not.
application?
It's best to fill it up. We don't really have an email address yet.
Okay,
So
that's
I
fine.
just put down an email address on.
Okay.
The phone number says
Can you
the,
just
it's
take
his
a
phone number.
photo?
That's fine. I'm just passing this down. Pass that down. Because of Dr. Davies' profession, we're changing the agenda again just to approve a business permit, which was circulating. So as soon as that's done,
Sorry, guys.
I'll accept the motion. And in the meantime, do you want to say a word or two about your practice, or?
Well, yeah, thank you, everybody. I have never imagined I'd have such a warm welcome from the town. We broke off from Southern Tennessee over there, and now it's Deborah and me and Holly Bailey over there. And it's just, people are coming over, a load of lumber and pulling wire and sheet rocking and painting, and I'm like, wow. And it's just really nice, and I hope that we can just return the warmth and the love you're showing us. We'll be there. We'll be there.
Council members, do you have any questions of Dr. Davies?
No.
And have you all reviewed the,
Does he make
I'll make a
pizza?
motion to
all right, if you could send that back. A motion to approve by Doreen, is there a second?
Second.
By Nick. Is there any discussion on the motion of approving it? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Congratulations, thank you, Doctor. We're glad you're here.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. Okay, all I do is keep modifying the terms. Travis, you want to do yours and finish up with your comments about Steve's work? And
Yes. So working with Steve, and good evening, I'm getting right into it. Working with Steve, worked with him for several years, but you know, through the emergency management obligation to the county, especially the town, we've talked about sitting down deeper and going more into detail on some stuff for emergency operations plan with the town on the, you know, especially the snow event that was going on. So, hopefully we'll get something for the fire side on all that. With that, there was about 15 snowstorm related calls. That was service call related from the 15th to the 19th. The fire department responded to. That's everywhere. That's the interstate, the 41 mountain through town. It was very busy. And there was 20 emergency calls for the whole month of December. The fire department successfully has achieved 2 grants. One of the grant was $294,000. That was through the CBDG, and the second grant through the State Fire Marshal's Office BFEET grant for $57,000. These grants will allow the purchase of a new cascade system, loose equipment loadout for the ladder truck, bunker gear, and several other needed items for the fire department. The final findings are back from the ISO grading. We were rated as an ISO Class 5. This was a huge improvement of almost 9 points. We were previously at Class 5, however, almost a 6. So in between a 4 and a 5 and a 5 and a 6, there's about 10 to 15 point grades that goes, but the general big number goes into, the strongholds of a 1 through 10. 1 being the best, 10 being the no fire department rating. So we're about 1.8 or 1.18 points away from a Class 4 department. So that's a huge improvement on all aspects of the fire department. I told you all about the snowstorm, and on the snowstorm, all town, the water department, road department, everybody that was involved in that. I mean, I think the whole town came together at that, and everybody worked together. And lots of sleepless hours, and lots of, just any kind of call you can think of from the community. I mean, I think the town was there to handle it as they came in. So I did enjoy working with John and all the crews. Keith, it was a good working staff. A few of the members has been to arson detection training and fire prevention training to better assist the community and the department. That's been held. The arson class was held through TBI through Mike Gamber, and that was at Swanee. That was 1 class, and then I think we've got 4. That's a 4 class total that's going to go into that. Fire prevention, we've been learning a lot about the community interactions, the smoke detector program. We're back going with that full swing. Just public education on fire prevention. So there's a few members that's focused and centralized on the arson detection and the fire prevention side of it. Brindley Mountain's been through last week, and then the annual inspections and annual services for all the fire apparatus. I asked about the ladder while they were here. Adam said that the ladder was pretty well disassembled. They was pulling the boom sections out to work on it, and still shooting for March on that before it comes back. I think we told AJ, told you 12,000 gallons is what we've used for water over the month of December. That's all I've got for fires in a nutshell.
Are there any questions on the fire department report? Okay.
I had a question about, the mayor shared with us a fire recovery billing solution.
Yes.
Product.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so right now, any of the calls, especially the interstate, commerce-related calls, if we're out and we have a truck fire, hazmat mitigation, something like that, we may use booms, pads, foam, firefighting foam. That's all retrievable. That's a recoupable cost for us in the town as well. This solution, this billing solutions. Back in the day, there was an outfit out of Alabama that done it, and I'm familiar with those guys. There's a third-party billing, if you will, and you're not really billing anything. You're recovering costs. So there's a FEMA schedule that's put down to recover costs for fire personnel, fire apparatus, etc. Foams, hazmat equipment, blah blah blah. All of that stuff comes back to the town, as a reimbursement fee or charge. And right now, I'm typing that and handling all of it, as we get these calls. But the facts of the matter is they don't have to send you anything back. So in order to recoup this, you just got to continuously stay after them. If you turn this over to the company, I don't remember the exact percentage cost. It's a percentage cost of the recovery. But I go back to, if we recover $1, it's more than we had on the equipment that we're putting out to do this stuff with. So they're handling all the interactions with the insurance companies. They're handling all of it. Most of the stuff is derived through insurance companies. They're not going to the public. As far as our homeowners here in town, there won't be any hassles of a structure fire or anything like that. This is more focused towards the interstate, the big companies that we have to deal with on the interstate.
That was my question. Do you get to pick and choose who you turn over to them and who you don't? Okay, so you can still handle the local residents?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're okay with that?
Absolutely. Well, I'm not, there's nothing that I would ever poke onto the local residents of, they've already suffered enough for a loss. I'm focused more on the interstate. Most of our specialty equipment's handled, it's on the interstate where we use all that stuff.
Okay, so it's kind of like a reserve attack dog if you need one.
That's right.
Okay, that makes sense.
We got the packet recently. We'll be discussing that, Alderman, in the future to probably take action or consideration on it in February, at the February meeting. So thank you. Just want to go on with the building and code?
Yeah, let's go on to the AJ's here. I'm going to keep moving for your meeting though. If AJ wants to step in. The codes enforcement, there's 2 violations that he served. He served one for living in an RV within city limits. A second violation, he was served on commercial property for debris, specifically mattresses on the property. One violation's been remediated out of those 2, and it is now compliant. One city court case has been heard and ruled under commercial violation stemming from a previous continued case. That's the code side. Any questions for AJ? Okay. Building inspections. I've had 4 inspections for this month of December. One commercial fire inspection, life safety inspection. That's kind of a new item on the list. I was asked to conduct that. That was for a local business that was getting ready to open. I think that they'd had a business permit that they were trying to go through the town with, and there were some issues there, but we're working with the property owner to remediate those for the new business.
AJ, did you have anything to add?
No, sir. The 2 violations from last month, like he said, one's closed and they've moved on. Ain't had no more problems out of them. And then the other one, they're in the process of cleaning up. So that's going to be continuous into this month. They've got about 2 more weeks, week and a half, 2 weeks. And after that, we'll go back out and talk to them again, see where they're at with it.
On the follow-ups?
Yep.
I'll be doing this probably all night. You probably know all this anyway. But the fire department ordinance, building code, what Travis and AJ do, they also remove trees that have fallen across roadways. They're pulling cars out of ditches because people don't always want to drive on ice or know how to drive on ice. They've coordinated with EMA and the National Weather Service to keep me advised and the police department advised as to incoming weather. The jobs that they do with the grant and the state fire marshal's office and all the work that they've done is, to me, above and beyond. So I think we're blessed to have you both, and thank you for your service to the community, especially in these weather events that affected everybody. So thank you for that.
Congratulations on the grants.
Yes, thank you, and that, we'll hear more as that kind of unrolls. We're still waiting on contracts and stuff on the provider side, so.
So that'll take care of the cascade issue.
Absolutely, yes.
One question I think I've asked you before, and I apologize for not remembering the answer. It used to be that we would require that the building inspector sign off that the fire inspection and life safety issues had all been dealt with before issuing a building permit. We're not really doing that anymore, and I don't know. I'm just curious to hear from you. Does that matter? Should we be getting back into having that?
Yes, I would say definitely, because it's kind of a hand-in-hand thing, and these buildings and life safety aspects not only affecting the general public, but it's also, the building code kind of originated as a cushion for the general public, for the citizens as well as the property owners, but it also played a role in the firefighters that were trying to go in to service these buildings in an event. So that life safety and fire code goes hand in hand on the building side. It's kind of, each inspector's got his forte, his or her forte. So, I know fire, I understand fire side for the fire inspections, and it's kind of been a case-by-case deal. I mean, nobody's really come forward and said, hey man, can you do a fire inspection, a bona fide fire inspection? So as we get those, absolutely, we'll interact, and hopefully we'll go further into this. I'll go ahead and tell you about a Knox box is a commercial access box, a locked box on these commercial businesses that's allowing access to the commercial entities. That's kind of fire inspection side and life safety stuff to give the fire departments and even the police departments access to these buildings after hours. Because right now we've got two choices. We either bust the window out or we're waiting on the key holder to get to us. So we're damaging property or somebody has to come and we're standing. I'll introduce that later on in the summer, but Decker just jumped into they've got an awesome program on the Knox box system with their business owners. So I'm shooting for that as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you. Police Department?
Hello. Nice to see you guys. Thank you. I'm gonna go over these numbers really.
I mean, get them up.
Okay.
It's in the package, I'm sorry.
I'll go over the numbers really quick, as you guys are gonna be able to see them, or I can just go over them here. And then I'll go over a few other things that's transpired.
Talk slowly, I'll get it.
Okay. Public intox, we had 0. Evading arrest, we didn't have any of those. Well, within the 15 days. The only thing that we really did have, we had a reckless driving. We had 2 drug-related cases, which I find very impressive. Those are going way down, which we want to see. 24 citations were written. That's going to be speeding tickets, which are way down. And call volume is down. So that's something that we wanted to strive to see happen. Okay. We did have an overdose of an individual that passed away at the hotel. That is still being investigated, but it was an overdose by her hand. So drug overdose. Okay. I've had a few people ask me about that and ask me, how that was going. Unfortunately, there wasn't any foul play. I mean, it is what it is. She took something and she died by her own hand, unfortunately. Fentanyl, it's bad. We all know how bad fentanyl is. So that's why we really do our due diligence to try to get as much of it off the streets as we possibly can here in Monteagle. So as far as those numbers go, that's the numbers. Mayor, I'm glad that you hit on the weather, Travis, as well. Town did come together very well when it came to the weather. However, we did have 17 crashes. So luckily, none of them harmed anyone. They were minor fender benders. That could have been bad, but we did have 17 in 1 week. So,
and
that was just the ones that called. Yes. So, yes, that was pretty impressive actually. But luckily, no one was injured. And any vehicles that we did see abandoned, we did find out that there were citizens of Monteagle that actually helped them get home. So that's a big statement for the town. Now, the other thing is I've had several people ask me, we have had several thefts of vehicles over the last week. We have recovered all 3 vehicles. It was 2 vehicles and a camper. Officer Carteron, he recovered them along with Marion County agency. So we did get those vehicles recovered. There are warrants out for the individual right now, so that individual will be going back to prison. It's also the same individual that got in a high-speed pursuit on Wednesday night. I know that I've had several people asking about that. That's still an ongoing investigation because there were 3 individuals that fled that scene, so there will most likely be other charges as well. But to let you guys know, we know who stole the vehicles. I'm not really going to say who it is right now. That individual will be apprehended soon enough, and we're just not going to tolerate people stealing from us anymore. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for this chief?
Thank you.
Okay.
I apologize, I didn't seem to have a scan sheet.
No, you're fine.
I have seen it.
Thank you.
Well, let me make a comment about
Okay.
you and your department. They're constantly searching for grants, as Chief Travis Lawyer is. But they learned something in this business that if the next shift doesn't come in, you stay and pull a double. And that's exactly, was it Officer Carteron and any others that did that?
Actually, I did it one night too, so.
That's the kind of police department we have. Patrols aren't an issue. Communicating with me is not an issue. Double shifts are not an issue. We just need some grant money that the chief is working on with me and others to try to get us up to par. But thank you very much for all that you and your department has done for the town. Appreciate it. Okay, are you ready for Parks and Recreation?
Yes. So, just a quick announcement, there is a recreation survey. The committee's interested in exploring what's that?
Microphone.
Oh, you want me to go up there?
Well, we help the TV viewers as well.
Oh my God. And then wait for me to walk up there. Okay, so there is a recreation survey that's out there that we're asking the members of the community to take so that we can hopefully get an idea of what people are interested in. Please understand, we are open to ideas that cost substantial amounts of money, but that's probably going to be a longer term project. We're very interested in things that we can do quicker. I don't have to relay to the people in the community that programs that have been in place in the past have faltered, and we have not found a way to put those back in place immediately. So, but we are working on it. And so one of the thoughts is maybe what we've always done is not what we're going to do moving forward. And maybe we should ask the people in the community what they're interested in doing. So that's what the recreation survey is about. I personally have no interest in perpetuating one program over another. What I would like to see is the youth of our community and the people in our community, everybody in our community, to be involved in recreation to the extent that they want to, or maybe we encourage people who haven't done it in the past. But I don't have a particular interest in seeing one program or another program perpetuated. With all that said, you can access the survey on the city's webpage under the mayor's memo. There's a link to it there. So please go take it. Please encourage other people that you know to go take it so that you tell us what you want and what you'd be interested in. Now, if you tell us that you would like to have a swimming pool, for example, that has some monetary considerations that we may not be able to address immediately or anytime in the foreseeable future or my lifetime. But it doesn't mean that we're close to that thought. So things that cost less money we might be able to address sooner. So just because you put it on there and say I want it doesn't mean it's coming, but we're gonna weigh all of this equally. The other thing I would like to announce, on March the 7th at 5:30 right here, we will have a town hall meeting on recreation just to hear what people want to lob out at us. and to tell us. That will be facilitated. We'll talk about the results from the survey. That thing's going to be out there all through February. So go take it, encourage your friends to take it, and then we'll talk about it, and then we'll hear what comes at that town hall meeting. We don't really have anything to tell you at that point. We'll be having that town hall meeting to hear what you have to say about what you would like to see. Any questions?
Tell everybody that everybody in the same household should take it,
Yes. So
not just one person.
exactly. So, you know, children, we don't want the contact information for children. You don't have to put your contact information in there if you want to. There's questions in there saying, would you be willing to do this or that? And then if you want to let us have a way to get in touch with you, we would love to have that. But if you don't want to do that, you don't have to leave your personal information. We do not encourage you to leave personal information for children, but if there's 4 people in the household, mom and dad and 2 kids, we want all of them to take the survey so that we get the opinion of everybody and what they want, especially youth. Any other comments or questions?
What time is the May 7th meeting?
5:30.
Do you need to announce that we meet every month to try to come up with some kind of ideas, and anybody's welcome?
Yep. So just reach out to me, let me know, or let Melissa know. Is Melissa going to be our point person in the city hall? So let Melissa know. Sorry, it was me, but Melissa's been helping us a little, so she could be our point person in there. But let Melissa know. We're happy to hear from folks.
And that was
March 7th.
at 5:30
Yes.
here at Town Hall.
I hope that's okay because you told me it was.
And so for folks interested in baseball this season, we partner with Tracy again.
Yes.
Like we did last
So,
year.
and probably one of the things that, you know, probably what we suspect has happened is our program has faltered here. People have found other places to do that, which makes it hard for us to have a program in Monteagle because people are accustomed to going to other places, and we were probably marginal in the number of people for having our own teams in Monteagle previous to this. So we have probably, I don't know this for a fact, but we have probably diminished our ability to have that program in the immediate future.
Well, we could offer them our fields though. And,
Sure,
and,
we certainly
We
could.
did that last year. We practiced here a couple times.
We can do that.
Well, just so you all know, Ty has helped tremendously revamping and expanding the entire recreation program, and he's chairing that committee, and we really appreciate his efforts on that. Thank you, Ty.
Sorry. Don't do that to me anymore.
Utility, John, you want to start?
I don't have nothing unless y'all do. Got any questions?
Well, John and I talked a good 6 or 8 times today on the reports. We're working through some stuff, and I talked to Debbie about how to maybe, we'll work between now and then. Debbie and I will get together and figure out how to get you the easiest way to get you the right information. The mayor was talking about this lead and copper survey that we've got to do, and he mentioned that you didn't think that we would have any of it. Can you tell us about that?
Well, not for sure, because Darryl used to take care of it. I'm sure there's some in it.
So we might have some to deal with.
Maybe.
Okay.
We'll get to that in conversation.
I can talk to Whale and see what comes back on the other reports that we've had.
So, and that wasn't clear to me. Are we going to actually have to dig up and look regardless of whether we
No.
think
Phase 2,
No.
I have that in Travis's comments.
No.
But, okay, well, is that it basically for you then?
Yeah, unless somebody else got anything.
Anyone have any questions of John? No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for fielding all the questions during the storm, and
Yeah,
I know that was an
I had them.
extra amount of consideration, but thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Well, and then, Dan, if I may, I'll follow up on that. The water and sewer plant operators, especially the water plant operators, were there around the clock, checking pumps and gauges, and fortunately, the electricity stayed on. So you say, well, that's nice, but there's a lot more to it. As some homeowners are learning, and some business people may be learning, there were leaks and tremendous water loss. And it was that department that turned off the valves, turned off whatever had to be to save water. The main lines of the town seemed to be all right, but from the meter to the house, there were issues. And there was that crew that turned them off, that went looking for the bigger leaks. So while no one is here from Waters other than John and Dwayne there in the back, That's what kept us going. So we were able to find and save water as much as possible. The last report I saw was we were at something like 800,000 plus gallons of leaks and problems. So it's an issue, but they handled it. And again, to the water and sewer folks, and John, please pass that on.
I will.
A wonderful job, around the clock and doing what they had to do.
Thanks.
So I appreciate that. Let me just read, Travis Wilson was not able to be here tonight. He sent me a quick email as to the highlights. The DuBose water tank has been completed and the project is closed out. Both water tanks are in full compliance with TDEC. The I&I correct project plan and specifications have been submitted for review. Anticipated TDEC approval by the end of February, and then we'll start the bid process, et cetera, and construction to start probably estimated at the beginning of the summer. The grant for lead and copper was submitted on January 16th. That was their deadline, TDEC's deadline. And grants come in various segments and portions. The total amount is $250,000, the total grant. The portion that they will pay, or the state will pay, is $212 and $500, and the match portion is $37,500. So lead and copper compliance is mandatory by October 2024. This is a requirement that TDEC sent us that everyone in the state has to do. Do we have lead pipe? Do we have copper pipe? That's what this grant is for. First, it's to analyze and to file by by January 16th. When that's approved and passed on, they'll give us the next phase to do whatever digging and research we have to do. So what forms they require and what work has to be required is to be determined. They just wanted everyone to submit on or before January 16th. So that's that. And then the asset management plan grant was approved, and that's for compliance as part of the ARP program. So that's another grant that we have to work on. That Travis does a lot of work, and you say, well, why? Well, all of these grants require engineer studies or some kind of information from a licensed engineer. So Travis Wilson has done some work for us, and we're going to be in communication with him to see how to refine some of those systems. So, having said all that, the only other department that I have is the street department. And quite frankly, they helped with maintaining and repairing where possible. They have equipment shortfalls. Some people say, where's your snow plow? We don't have a snow plow. So that's why I urge people in the beginning, my comments for this weather event is stay home if you can. People say, well, 41 was great. Yes, 41 is a state route, and they were salting and plowing and salting, but even they stopped operations because of the frigid temperature and restarted again, I think 10 o'clock one of those evenings. So it was quite a weather event, and the less people on the road, the more freedom the plows have to move. So I hope that word gets out. And now Alderman comments? Doreen?
No.
Jessica?
No.
Dan?
No, sir.
Nate?
Just one quick thing. I mentioned to you this morning, I was in Nashville last week, and I learned that there's some Inflation Reduction Act money available for tree planting. So I'm going to be reaching out to Nashville next week to see if we can get some of that. You know, we talked about some of those declining trees in the downtown corridor, maybe replacing some of those and doing some new ones, at least at the playground. So I hope to know more on that next month.
Okay. Before we get to the ordinances, I just want to make a few comments now. As you know, our fiscal year is from July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024, which is our budget year and coincides with Tennessee's fiscal year. I would like to report to you on some of the highlights, where we've been, where we are, and where we are planning to go. Briefly, we've touched on some of this from time to time, but I just want to recap everything. We were sworn into office November 28th, 2022. Two Aldermen, Doreen and Jessica, have their next elections November of 2024. Dan, Nate, and myself will be involved, depending on our future plans, of the 2026 election. This is to establish a staggered term of 4 years. That's why 2 now, 2 years or not. So just wanted that clarified. During my campaign, I expressed concern for our senior citizens and veterans. After the election, I joined the American Legion Post in Tracy City to help support our veterans in any way possible. But as part of that, I was asked to participate at Colemont Cemetery, Wreaths Across America, a program to place wreaths on veterans' grave sites, and a program, quite frankly, worth starting in Monteagle. There are a lot of veterans from this mountain. The cemeteries on this mountain have a lot of veterans that have given service to their country, and Wreaths Across America is a way to remember that around, roughly speaking, the Christmas holiday or the month of December. Weather permitting and all that, many cemeteries nationwide have been participating, and I think we should too, quite honestly. More about our senior citizens in a few minutes, but I also wanted to let you know, and some of you may know this, we've appointed a chaplain for our town. Reverend Paul Franzand accepted the assignment and is dispatched by the fire department. He has responded to fire calls, medical helicopter events, and several town events, including offering, as he did this evening, the opening prayer at our meetings. He takes a non-denominational role. He'll work with other clergy as the need arises when we do Memorial Day, or if they want to step forward and offer a prayer, that's fine too for our meetings. But we're trying, or one of my hopes is we involve the total community. And Polk accepted that, and we're grateful to him for that. 1 month almost to the day, if you all recall the Christmas freeze of 2022, the water line on College Street broke. The water line in Town Hall burst, and we had a lot of mopping up and insurance claims to do. Other current projects include the camera inspection of main sewer lines as the first step to locate the I&I issues. We work with Vista, which is now AmeriCorps volunteers, to help us on several projects. Refurbished the 2 existing water tanks, which you've heard about 100 times, and that was done. But just so you understand, the work that we're doing now is required by TDEC. So they wanted the 2 tanks serviced, examined, whatever, so we did that. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be discussing my thoughts for a senior citizen program. I envisioned a program organized for and maintained by the seniors. While discussing my plan with Jackie Ruggles, she immediately offered to get the program established and help develop the plan. There are organizational meetings, a survey, a mailing, recruiting volunteers in literally record time. Before I knew it, bingo was underway with more participants at each meeting. And then there were several lectures as well, and there are other activities planned in the future. Now we have also, as part of this, requested by some of our seniors, a body recall led by Judy McGavro. They meet here in this room every Thursday, 9:30 to 10:30. It's a low-impact exercise program, and it seems to be well attended. I did not participate, but the few times I said hello, there were probably 20-plus participants in there, so it well attended. Well, it didn't stop there. Marcy Duslow has started a Buy a Brick campaign with the proceeds going to the landscape and building improvements at the community center and library area. Marcy has led the effort of improving the appearance of the community center, and then in her spare time, she organized the entire Christmas fair at Harton Park this year, despite the weather. Thanks to Doreen for the decorations in town and the park that she does every year. Santa and Mrs. Claus appeared to greet us regardless of our ages. Now, Martha Ann Pilcher organized a business decoration contest, or it's a grant program for town landscaping and beautification. Martha Ann serves as the coordinator of some of these projects. I don't want to overload her too much, but she does a lot of work. And I hesitate to mention all the volunteers that help with any of these projects for fear of forgetting someone. So it is wonderful, I think, and I'm sure we all agree, when caring and dedicated volunteers come together to help the town in which they live. And citizens can volunteer to help, and they can even participate. So I think if you get involved and you see something you like, certainly join in and help get that done. On the administration side, as you probably know, we work with Southeast Tennessee Development for our Planning Commission advisor, as well as they do some of our grant writing. We work with TDOT, that will be doing all the state roads, of course, and the bridge work with the roundabouts and coordinating that with the Mountain Goat Trail. So that's all part of a project that we've heard. I do not have any updates. The state will let me know when they're ready to have that second community meeting. TDEC is Department of Environment and Conservation. That was the water tanks. And also, when I met with the commissioner, he offered the possibility of a third water tank. So that may be available by grants, and we're going to be working on that when we finish some of the work. MTAS is Municipal Technical Advisory Service. They've been running seminars and training sessions for us and giving us advice, and have answered our every phone call. And now a new thing that has come about is NCSR, the Nationwide Cybersecurity Review. It's an anti-hacking effort. Cybersecurity is a gigantic issue if you follow the news at all. And the request for this, and it's spearheaded by the governor's office. So the entire state is on that project, and it's getting a lot of very serious attention. So what's coming up? Nate Wilson is leading the steering committee of Communities by Design, a project of the American Institute of Architects. This will involve community meetings to receive citizen input. Nate will keep us advised as to meetings and communications with their team. And let me say this, everything you've heard tonight, all these grants, all these committees, all these people need community input. Don't let us do Project A and everybody says, that's ridiculous, you should have done Project C. You know, we're trying to get coordinated, but we're doing it for the townspeople, for our community, for where we live. So please participate in anything that you're asked to do, be it survey, or if you have a comment about Community by Design, I'm sure Nate will be happy to answer your question, because he'll also be working on the T-Dot Bridge project, which will encompass part of the Mountain Goat Trail. And as president of Mountain Goat Trail Alliance, he'll be coordinating the trail portion with the T-Dot project. And I know that's one of his favorite projects in the whole world. In closing the review of what is the general fund, I would like to briefly review the general fund's budget. At present, the budget appears to be on schedule to arrive at the June 30th completion. We'll start our budget workshops, I'm projecting in March, maybe a little sooner, always searching for grants, wanting to streamline operations, working smart where we have the proper tools, where we do something once instead of back and forth. The other thing that we'll be discussing in a minute with one of the ordinances, I want to review, and I've been asked to review, the enterprise fund. The enterprise fund deals only with water and sewer. The general fund deals with police, fire, administration, streets, and the general operation of the town. But here under our charter, we have an enterprise fund, and this is just a quick recap of what I said at that meeting back in November. The fund is completely separate. There cannot be two sets of rates inside and outside city limits. Outside the city limits, they used to be able to charge a higher rate than for those people inside the city limits. That has been eliminated. It has to be one limit across the board, inside and outside of the city limits. There should not be 2 consecutive years of loss in the enterprise fund operating account. And this does not include capital expenditures, and we've had some that you've heard of. Events of previous years have brought the town to the next phase of development. We have 2 years of operating loss, therefore the state may set rates to make up the deficit. We're going to discuss that in a few minutes. We think we're on course for that. To be proactive, we approved the 2% increase in the billing. That was back in November when I reported it. There will be another 2% increase after 2 readings, January and February, which is what we're going to discuss soon. We continue to need to be proactive. We no longer have rates as we want, or no rates at all for 10 years or whatever. We plan to show by us taking action and working on major capital projects, the state will grant us more time. What has happened, and I know this happened to a community just down the mountain heading towards Cowan, the state came in, requested a rate study and set some rates. What we're doing is in anticipation of that and trying to head that off, and we think we're on target. We've been in communication and through our accountant, and we think we can handle some of those situations. So that's kind of my report and a review of what's going on, but please understand that a lot of the work that we do is an answer to TDEC, TDOT, insurance company recommendations, attorneys, or other valid requirements or recommendations that we have to as a municipality deal with. So that's my hopefully brief overview, but I did want to get those points out there because we're going to be busy and it's not going to stop in 2024. We've met with people from DeBose Conference Center. We're working with people at Marriott, still doing that project, and as you know, there are other parcels of land that are being considered for development. So, having said all that, you have copies, I believe, of the first reading of ordinance 01-24, which is the unit size.
Mayor, before we move on, you brought up AIA, and I failed to mention when you gave me an opportunity earlier. April 25th is going to be a huge town-wide event where we're going to be soliciting input in this process. So write it down on your calendar. I don't think there's going to be any way for you to avoid this, because the way the steering committee has been working, we're going to have a flyer in everybody's box and at every church and every school, and we're going to be talking about it on Facebook and talking about it on GCTV. But that day, we're going to have a big event at City Hall. We're going to try to feed people who show up. We're going to have economic development professionals, land use professionals, downtown corridor design professionals, and placemaking sort of historic preservation professionals all here and all wanting to talk to everybody in the community. So the mayor was right when he's saying if you get the opportunity for input, we want to hear it. And April 25th is going to be that day. And then and again, you'll hear about this again, but I felt like I was remiss by not bringing it up.
No, please.
And then April 27th, so they're going to do this worldwide thing or this whirlwind thing where they're going to take everybody's input on the 25th and the 26th. And then on the 27th, there's going to be another public meeting where they're going to talk about, these professionals are going to talk about what they learned from all us and give another presentation. So please mark those calendars on your dates, and again, you'll be hearing about those again later.
That, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nate, that's almost a requirement of their visit is community input. I mean, they don't want to hear from me. We've got another, 1,900 other people to listen to. So we do want, and there's nothing that's bad. As Ty said in his Recreation Committee report, if you want a swimming pool, we'll write it down. We may or may not be able to do it, but they had the input and you had that chance to express your input. So.
And there are other opportunities for that. So for instance, I think Morton Memorial, we're talking to them about maybe hosting these planners one night so that they'll get the planners as a captive audience and feed them supper. If you have another church or a group that you would like to sit down with these planners, there's several meals, and any time that we can get them a meal, it gives them the opportunity to speak with a group of the community, but also it saves our budget because we don't have to feed them. So if you have a group that is interested in that, please let us know. And also, the steering committee really would like to have some local talent at our party on the 25th. So if you have a youth choir or a group, we're reaching out to a couple of folks that would like to do some shows. We're going to be looking at doing just a little bit of entertainment between the presentations and while we feed everybody, trying to keep everybody engaged on that night. So just reach out to me if you got any suggestions.
Okay. Any other comments from the alderman on this topic?
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dan. No, Dan, thank you for your comment. Thank you, Nate, for your report. I know I'd get it straight one day. Okay, let's go to first readings of ordinances. The first ordinance is 01-24, which talks about the unit size. That is where I brought up, because people asked me to bring it up, the Planning Commission has reviewed it, now it's come to the mayor and alderman, about changing the minimum square footage from 600 square feet to 800 square feet for a living unit. So first, before discussion, let's have a motion to accept on first reading. So we can discuss.
Motion of 01-24 unit size ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Now, discussion on that motion. Any thoughts or comments on the first reading? And then we'll ask for any citizen input.
Well, Mayor, I want to say I'm strongly opposed to this. I think that the current zoning, and I'll bring it up so that everybody can see it here. The current zoning allows for an 800 square foot minimum in R1, but it allows that square foot minimum to drop to 650 feet in R2 and R3. And I think that's important and good for a couple of reasons. One, you're allowed a smaller lot size in R2 and R3. So these are the areas in town where we're okay for things to be a little bit more dense. And we've got a lot of those neighborhoods, and I'm sure many of you know them, probably some of them better than I do. But I spent some time looking at the assessor's page, and I can tell you that right now, There are at least probably a half dozen houses that are below 800 square feet in town, so they're not many. They don't appear to be any that have been newly built. But what there are a lot of in town is 700 and 800 and 900 square foot houses that used to be much smaller. And that has historically been the way that people establish themselves and build homes in this community, is they build what they can afford. And with the price of houses now running at least $150 a square foot, the difference between a 650 square foot house and an 800 square foot house is huge, and it may push people, particularly people who've lived here for generations, out of home ownership. And I think that's a real downside. And honestly, I don't see an upside. There has been a concern about tiny homes, and our zoning ordinance does a pretty good job of dealing with tiny homes only in R4 zoning, and we don't have any R4 zoning in the town of Monteagle. So we're not going to have a tiny home community in our midst. But we do have a fair number of small and unbuilt lots and large lots that have been passed down for generations where people could build a starter home and then add on to it later. So I just don't agree with this. I think if there are areas in town where we want to have an 800 square foot minimum home, then we zone them R1. Our zoning ordinance already allows for that within the R1 district.
Okay. Well, let me say this too, as many of you realize, I'm sure, in real estate, there's such a thing as lot coverage. Just to be silly to make the example, if your lot is 100 by 100, by the time you do setbacks and everything, you can only have so much square footage of your home. So with all of that in consideration, that quite frankly may go to your point, Nate, that we need to take another look at that. But this is the first reading. There'll be a public hearing and a second reading. So if you have any thoughts, contact one of us, let us know, drop a note at City Hall, whatever. But this would impact, obviously, the town, so we want to make sure we get it right. Any other comments, Alderman, at this time?
Mayor, could you review, maybe with folks here, what the planning commission, why they wanted to have this ordinance?
Well, they wrestled with it a little bit. They wanted to include apartments and not include apartments and what's a dwelling unit. Then we came up to freestanding single-family homes. So it was kind of a back and forth, and as I've said many times, I only brought it up because I was asked to bring it up and put it on the table, as they say, for discussion. So the planning commission decided, well, send it to the mayor and alderman and let them decide. So that's basically sum and substance, Jessica, as I remember it. They didn't see a problem with it per se. They understood people wanting to get away from tiny homes, and they just addressed that aspect. So it's something to think about and see. That's why we have first and second readings. We'll see where we go next month with it, and whatever input any you or anyone visiting us by technology has something to say, then let us know. Because I understand from time to time people say, well, I didn't make the meeting, but I saw you on Facebook. I didn't see the meeting, but I saw you on GCTV. So, and then of course, my favorite reporter in all of journalism is Leslie Lytle, who does a great job of quoting me, and I just wanted to do this instead of that. So anyway, that's sum and substance of that. And, so do we vote to accept on the first reading?
There's a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, David.
Question of clarification. The 600 and 800 square foot numbers, does that relate to the exterior dimensions of the structure or the interior square footage?
Yeah, it's measured from the exterior, but it's interior living space, so it doesn't include porches and that sort of thing. And so this is the ordinance as it's put here. And I promise I won't go back to preaching, but I do want to mention the condominium and apartment thing, because that bugs me from a home ownership standpoint. So my problem with this is that I want people to be able to build and own their own homes as they are able to afford them. And the idea that we would allow 600 square foot condominiums and apartments means that we must not have a problem with people living in smaller homes. We just have a problem with people owning them. And that's really where this is bugging me. And I know people didn't mean that. And let me say, I don't think the Planning Commission intended it. The way I'm interpreting it is just me interpreting it, but I don't like it.
Dan, do you have anything as far as the Planning Commission? Because I'm kind of torn. I understand where Nate's coming from, but I also understand the Planning Commission has really thought about this for the last couple of months, so.
There was a lot of consideration given to it. It was a very in-depth discussion. We had contractor-style folk that really didn't feel like it was fair, along with the same thoughts that Nate is giving. And it is really a ticklish situation because you have people that, you know, I'll just give you a brief and a very small story. When my dad was in Germany in the war, my mom bought a home because they didn't have a home. And it was 610 square feet home, I think. Well, she just had one son. But when we left in 1965, it was a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home, and it was almost 2,800 square feet. But the fact of the matter is, there wasn't an ordinance that said we couldn't have a 600 square foot home. So when he got home, he bought a little piece of property from my grandmother and had it moved to this place that we lived, and that's where I was born. But I understand what Nate is saying, and I realize I live in a 1,000 square foot home. I'm happy with it. I can't even keep it clean. But the fact of the matter is, if I had to replace it, it'd be a lot of money, and I realize what you're saying too. So it's really a double-edged sword, and it's something for real consideration. But as the mayor said, it is on the floor, and we would want to vote on it, and it may deem further discussion. I would be open to that.
I would rather do a further discussion, because like I said, I'm kind of torn. I understand Nate, but at the same time, I'm going to stand with the planning commission also, because they put work into this. So I'm I don't know which way I want to go.
Well, we can vote on the motion. If the motion fails, then there will not be a public hearing and second reading. If you want to continue it for more time, we can pass it on the first reading, have a public hearing, and vote finally on the second. Am I correct on that?
So can we do that?
Yeah, you vote however you want to vote on the first reading, yes. You have that option. Before we do that, though, is there any citizen comment on this topic that needs to be discussed now? Okay, then roll call vote, please, on ordinance number, first reading for ordinance number 01-24.
Doreen,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Nate,
No.
Yes. What that does now is give us a public hearing and more time to think, and we have a second reading next month. And again, I think, well, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'll say it. I think part of it is to get more input and more thought. I don't think the vote means that Nate is right or wrong, or Dan is right or wrong, or any of that. I think we just need a little more time before we pass that. So I wanted to make that comment.
I agree.
No, I'm sorry?
I agree.
Okay, thank you. Now there's ordinance, first reading of ordinance 02-24, which is the DeVos rezoning to remove it from institutional development to C2 Highway Commercial District, which has been required and quite frankly, it has to be done. So is there a motion to accept on the first reading ordinance 02-24, the DeVos project?
Move to accept ordinance 02-24.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in roll call?
Anybody want to see where it is? This is just a lot that was left off the last rezoning. Any of you guys who have been here before, this frontage lot was left off of the DeVos Center rezoning.
So all you're doing is just adding it?
We're just adding it, yeah, to the rezoning that's already been done.
All those in favor of the motion on the first reading of ordinance 02-24, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There'll be a public hearing and second reading on that. No, did I do something wrong?
No, David's voting back here. David's voting back here.
You can give me the Gibbs head.
I'm trying to keep them under control.
Please, can we have a little decorum from the audience, please? Sorry. The next item is the first reading of ordinance 03-24, that's the water rates. I covered the water rates. We've been talking about water rates. We all know the problem of water rates. It's a separate fund. It's the enterprise fund. It has nothing to do with the general fund. What we're proposing is a 2% increase, and this will be effective in March because we need the second reading. A 2% increase and a $5 service charge. Rather than keep raising rates, a flat $5 service charge should generate in the first year $90,000. That would go a long way in helping things. Quite frankly, I'll go on record in saying I do not anticipate any rate increase or anything else with the enterprise fund as far as rates in 2024, 2025 fiscal year. I think this should put us over the hump with, in coordination with watching our expenses, watching our income, watching future development. We put all those things together and this should hold us for quite some time, but I do not anticipate any more actions on the rates in 2024-25 calendar year, fiscal year. So, is there a motion to accept on first reading Ordinance 03-24, the water rates?
I'll make a motion to accept Ordinance 03-24 water rates.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? This is on the first reading to be followed by a second reading and public hearing. Okay, here.
The mayor's already heard me fuss about this, but I'll fuss for a minute. I didn't like the $5 per month customer service fee because I was afraid that it would disproportionately affect those on the low end. And so Debbie shared with me all the water and sewer customer data, and I scrolled through it with a spreadsheet for a lot of time over the last couple of days, and was able to come back to the mayor and say, I don't think I have a much better option right now. But the other thing I learned in going through that data is one of the things that $5 per month flat fee does is it captures some revenue from a lot of the second homes. So what I learned in scrolling through that data that Debbie provided me is that a lot of those are second homes that have really low billing rates. And so this allows them to contribute to this problem. We are probably going to have to do some sort of rate study in the relatively near term, and we'll probably get a better handle on, whether it's the flat customer service fee or rates, which has a bigger impact on the community, and that was my concern. But I think we got to do it. So.
Thank you. Okay. So all in favor of approving on first reading Ordinance 03-24 on the water rate, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? First reading approved. Final one is the first reading of Ordinance 04-24, payroll raises, which apply only to the general fund because obviously if we're asking for an increase, we don't have the wherewithal at this time to do any raises for the enterprise fund, much to all of our regret. But that's what we have, and we're trying to fix that in several different approaches. So is there a motion to accept on first reading Ordinance 04-24 concerning employee raises?
Move to approve on first reading.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Is there discussion on the motion?
So, just to explain to the community sort of what we did, MTAS, which the mayor talked about earlier, which is the Municipal Technical Assistance Program, they collect information from most of the municipalities in the state of Tennessee on what people pay in certain positions. And so we were able to get that data and sort through it for towns that are like us, towns that are near us. And we had to do both towns that are like us and towns that are near us because there are towns that are larger than us that are going to compete for our workers, right? And so we lose particularly police officers surrounding towns. So even if it's a bigger town, it's relevant what they're paying. So we looked at all that data, and then we looked at our payroll spreadsheet and identified the employees that were the most underpaid according to the benchmarks from our surrounding communities. And so that's what this is. And the bulk of it goes to the police, and that's right, and that's the way it should be. And other people that are listed here are also people that, according to that statewide survey, we're in danger of losing. So our hope is that toward the end of the budget year, and I think we all share this hope, is that toward the end of the budget year, we can look at more of a cost of living across the board raise to show more uniform employee appreciation. This is just about trying to level the playing field and make sure that we can keep the employees that we have.
Exactly right, and that's why Leslie captured on the front page, all we wanted to do was level the playing field. And that's right, Nate has spent a lot of time analyzing this and gathering information for us. I understand everything. We're not saying that we're competing with the Tennessee Highway Patrol, which pays a lot more than a lot of the municipalities. We're not competing with Hamilton County, Chattanooga, Nashville Metro. We're talking, as Nate said, just around our neighborhood. Believe it or not, some of the neighboring towns are paying more than we're paying right now. And they're putting in their budgets to bump it up again in there. So we want to keep track because, for what it's worth, we already have 2 officers resign for various reasons, not necessarily pay, but if there's another opportunity somewhere, they may want to examine that as well. So we think this is an important first step for that.
And in reality, we're not gonna pay a policeman what they're worth.
Well,
we just can't do it. I mean, it's a job that just does not get paid what they're worth. I mean, it's a sacrifice of one's time and sometimes life, and I really feel that this is the least we can do, is what we've come up with here.
Thank you. I wholeheartedly agree, as you all know. You know, they run into the bad guys, and that's a challenge in and of itself. But I've gotten several comments on how they helped, whether it was a car or a dog or a neighbor or this or that or just advice. The police have been responsive and helped in any way they could, so we appreciate that. So if that concludes your comments, is all in favor of passing on the first reading, ordinance 04-24, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on the first reading.
This is a budget, though. Don't we need to do roll call? Because it's budget related.
Okay, excuse me, we'll do roll call.
Lauren?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Nate?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, the second reading I was going to, that's fine. I understand. Okay, any citizen comments at this time? You've all been very gracious and attentive. Thank you for coming. Please tell your friends and neighbors, but we're trying hard to keep things moving. So thank you
for
all.
all you do.
Take care.
Thank you.
Can I make a motion
Thank you.
to?
Oh, yes, motion to adjourn.
I made a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Dan seconds it. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? I didn't think there'd be any discussion.